what's up with it, man? Welcome back to notable prisons and the inmates that occupy them. You know what I'm saying? And shout out to Dwayne A. Laundry Jr. for recommending Angola State Prison. I've always heard about this place when I was younger, in pop culture and all that type of stuff. But I figured we'd get into the little history. But before I go any further, I gotta say this. Thank you guys for watching. I appreciate the feedback in the comments. And I ain't gonna lie, it's kind of overwhelming because I've never seen so many comments in my YouTube comment sections before. I'm usually the one in the comments trolling and this, that, and the third. Da, 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 da. Like someone said in one of the comments, yeah, you must have been that kid that was in front of the school, in front of the classroom that couldn't read well. I love it. I love it. Anyways, let's get down to business. Angola State Prison. Let me tell y'all a little something about Angola State Prison, okay? It's a maximum security prison from Louisiana. It's operated by the Louisiana Department of Public Safety and Corrections. It's named Angola after the former slave plantation that occupied this territory. The plantation was named after the country of Angola, from which many slaves originated before arriving in Louisiana. You feel me? See, I just taught y'all something. Another thing, Angola is a large maximum security prison in the United States with 6,300 inmates and about 1,800 staff. Yo, this is like a small college or something, including correctional officers, janitors, maintenance, and all that type of shit. Due to these large numbers, it has been given the nickname a gated community located in West Feliciana Parish. The prison is set between Oxbox Lakes on the east side and the bend of the Mississippi River. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to be the greatest YouTuber on the west side of the Mississippi River. You feel me? Anyways, so it is flanked on three sides by water. It lies less than 2 miles south of Louisiana, straight east-west border with Mississippi. I can spell that. Mississippi. The 28 square miles of the land the prison sits on was known before the American Civil War as the Angola Plantations and was owned by Isaac Franklin. The prison is located at the end of Louisiana Highway 66, around 22 miles northwest of St. Francisville Death Row for men, and the state execution chamber for women and men are located at Angola's facility. Yeah, they've smoked quite a few people there over their history. But we're not going to get into the people that they have smoked. We're going to get into the people that are, waiting to get smoked or just notable inmates. So, first off, I got a few inmates. These are some of the death row or non-death row inmates. Okay. First up, Nathaniel Robert Code Jr., known as the Cedar Grove Killer. Y'all ready to hear about little Nathaniel? Well, I'm going to tell you a little something about Nathaniel. He's known as the Cedar Grove Killer, and he's an American killer, serial killer, rapist who stalked and murdered at least 8 people in Shreveport, Louisiana between 84 and 87. He was sentenced to death for 4 of those killings and have been on death row in Louisiana for 31 years. So pretty much my whole lifetime, he's been sitting on death row. That sucks for him. Because I can tell you, these 31 years for me, I've been enjoying it. I've been eating good. I've been being around some very beautiful women. I've been accomplishing goals. I've been having kids. Man, what? It's so much better out here. But despite wishes from his victims' family members, he is also suspected of committing a further 4 murders, which would bring his total victim count to 12. Yeah, dude was a for sure weirdo. Like I said, anyone that has that R word in their charges, they're a weirdo, and they are not innocent, and they do not need to be freed. It's just that point blank period. Next up, Antoinette Rene Frank. Did I pronounce that right? Yes, I did. Anyways, she's a former officer of the New Orleans Police Department, who on March 4th, 1995, committed a violent armed robbery at a restaurant, which resulted in the killing of 2 members of the Vietnamese-American family who ran the establishment. A fellow officer of hers, Ronald A. Williams II, she was aided by her probable lover, drug dealer Roger Lucchese, Frank currently resides at the Louisiana Correctional Institute for Women in St. Gabriel, Louisiana, the only woman on the state's death row. Well, you know what I'm saying? You can't just be out here doing hate crimes and shit. I do not stand for that. And yeah, yep, they gonna smoke the hell out of her ass. It is what it is. It is what it is. That's what's gonna happen. Next up, we have Derek Todd Lee, also known as the Baton Rouge serial killer. He was an American serial killer between 92 and 03. Lee murdered 7 women in Baton Rouge. Good grief, he's scummy. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Smoking on that Lee pack right now. Lee died on January 21st, 2016 of heart disease at a hospital in Louisiana, where he was transported for treatment in Louisiana State Penitentiary, where he had been awaiting execution. And the reason why he died from heart disease is because he was eating too much damn salt. I'm just kidding about the salt part. I just had to throw that in there. But yeah. Next up, we have William. Hold on. Wait. Let me get it right. No, not William. Wilbur. What? Wait. Pause. Wilbur. I bet you can't name that movie. Wait, was it a movie? That cartoon where the name Wilbur comes from. I'll give you a hint. It's an old one. Anyways, Wilbur Riddell is an American convicted killer and former death row inmate from Lake Charles, Louisiana, who became an author and award-winning journalist while held for 44 years at Angola prison. Riddell was convicted of in 61 first-degree murder of Julian Ferguson in the course of a bank robbery that year and sentenced to death. He was held in solitary confinement on death row pending execution after the Supreme Court of the United States ruled that the states had to rework their death penalty statutes because of constitutional concerns. The Louisiana court judicial system amended his sentence in 1972 to life in prison. Damn. But on the flip side, dude got out in 2005 and he did 44 flipping years. Like, that's crazy. That's like right now me going to jail for like 10 years or some shit. Like, hell no. That doesn't sound fun at all. You know what I'm saying? Next up, we got Silly Billy Sinclair. He is a former prisoner at the Louisiana State Prison, known as Angola. He's convicted of first-degree murder and was originally sentenced to death. His sentence was commuted to life in 1972. He became a notable journalist known for 1978 co-editing the Angolite with Wilbur. Together, they won some national journalism awards at for the magazine and were nominated for other awards and shit. The published articles written by inmates at the prison. See, that's smart. That's a good idea. See, people, they should do more shit like that. Like, you know, I strongly believe that they should, like, every inmate that is going to come home should learn, like, hella computer literacy skills and, like, all that type of shit. Because, I mean, realistically, this day and age, people, I mean, if you know what you're doing, you can make a comfortable living from, you know, behind your computer screen. Whether it be YouTube, OnlyFans, drop shipping, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Maybe I do all of this, maybe I don't. Who knows? But there's a lot of internet money out here to get. And so one more of these inmates that was on death row, that's not on death row. This guy is very interesting. Let me give you a little second to explain Mr. GT, a.k.a. Gary Taylor. So, pretty much, Gary Taylor is an African-American who was a former prisoner at Angola, right? He was convicted in 74 for a shooting death of a 13-year-old Caucasian boy and the wounding of another on a day of violent protest by, you know, the Klan against the blacks, you know, just Southern stuff. He was tried as an adult and convicted of first-degree murder. At the age of 17, by an all-white jury, he received a mandatory death sentence for that crime according to the state law when he entered Louisiana State Prison at a young age. But, peep game, people. Being that he went in at 17 and it was an all-white juror, there was some hope for a player. So peep game. In 2007, Bob Herbert of the New York Times wrote 3 columns about the case and the justice committed against Tyler. His work helped raise the visibility of Tyler's case. And a coalition of sports figures and other groups made a renewed effort to gain executive clemency for Tyler. In 2007, his attorneys filed a petition with the Louisiana Board of Parole requesting that they commute his life sentence to a defined number of years, which was necessary by state law in order to gain approval by the governor for executive clemency. Tyler did not gain a pardon. He had been there, but he had by then served 32 years. But ultimately, he was released April 2019, 2016. Now that is what you call doing some time, people. So now, next up, we have just notable inmates. Y'all ready for this? Some of these names might stand out to you. First off, we have Frank Lee Morris. By the way, Escape from Alcatraz is a really, really, really good movie. Y'all should check it out. I think it got Clint Eastwood in it or something. Anyhow, inmates him and Clarence England, John England, and Frank Morris escaped from Alcatraz, right? A maximum security facility located on Alcatraz Island in San Francisco Bay. Anyways, late on that night of June 11th or the early morning or June 12th, the 3 men tucked paper mache heads resembling their own likeness into their beds, broke out the main prison building via ventilation, and But anyways, so the thing was, Frank Morris, he was at Angola before he went to whatchamacallit. He was in Angola before he went to Alcatraz because they escaped from Alcatraz and they ain't been found since. I mean, I'm sure by now, if these dudes haven't passed away, they're getting pretty close to it. I mean, it's been a long time. You know what I'm saying? But hey, whatever. They did the ultimate escape, man. Chris Angel ain't got shit on their escape act. They did that. You feel me? Next up, C. Murder. I would like to say he's innocent, but yeah, he's innocent. But he's also better known by his stage name. C. Murder is an American rapper and songwriter. He initially gained fame in the 90s as a part of his brother's masterpiece label, No Limit Records. I know y'all remember him. They would have the big tanks and all that in the basketball courts and hootie-hoo, hootie-hoo. I think that was them that made that song. But anyways, in 2002, he was arrested in connection with the murder of a 16-year-old, Steve Thomas, and was sentenced to life in prison. On August 14th, 2009, Miller is serving his sentence at the Louisiana State Penitentiary. Controversy surrounding witnesses involved in Miller's trial came to light in 2018 when 2 key witnesses recanted their statements, claiming they had been pressured into testifying against Miller by authorities. Miller maintains his innocence. His brothers, and his nephew have all called for a new trial numerous of times. So we gonna see. But I tell you one thing, when C. Murder does get out, it's gonna be huge. Like, man, he's been referenced so much in in like hip hop culture and pop, well, mainly just hip hop culture. I'm sure other cultures probably don't know much about him, but yeah. Next up, the Angola 3. They were 3 African-American former prison inmates, Robert King, Albert Woodfox, and Herman Wallace. They were held for decades in solitary confinement while in prison in Louisiana State Prison. The later 2 were indicted on in April 1972 for the killing of a CO. They were convicted in January of 1974. Wallace and Woodfox served more than 40 years each. 40 years. In solitary confinement, the longest period of solitary confinement in American history. Robert King was convicted of a separate prison murder in 1973 and spent 29 years in solitary confinement before his conviction was overturned on appeal. He was released in 2001 after taking a plea deal from the late 90s. Each case was assessed and activists began to work to have these cases appealed and convictions overturned because of doubts raised about the original trial. Yeah, that sounds pretty crazy, right? And so in July 2013, Amnesty International called for the release of the 71-year-old Herman Wallace, who had been diagnosed with terminal liver cancer. He was released October 1st, 2013. The state had him on October 3rd, 2013, but he died October 4th, 2013. Yo, that's crazy. Before he could be rearrested. That's crazy because they re-indicted him on October 3rd. But anyways, on November 20th, 2014, Woodfox's conviction was overturned by the U.S. Court of Appeals. In April 2015, his lawyers applied for an unconditional writ for his release. His unconditional release was decided on June 10, 2015. He was released on February 19, 2016. After the prosecution agreed to drop its push for a retrial and accept his plea of a no contest to lesser charges of burglary and manslaughter. He said he would have liked the chance to prove his innocence, but chose the plea deal because of advanced age and health issues. Yo, do they have a movie about these guys? Because I've heard that name a lot. Angola 3, But, yeah. Next up, we have